What's up? How you doing? Here we are, evening time. Beautiful, beautiful night. Beautiful night tonight. You can feel the fall time is in the air. Autumn is just surrounding you right now. It still gets warm. It still gets hot in the daytime, but right now, the way it is, it feels like fall time, which is my favorite time of the year. Just the way you feel, and I remember when I was a kid, fall time, I mean, I know it was still summertime when school would start, but for me, that was the unofficial start of fall. And especially when it was like a cool day and my father would say, get in the station wagon, we're going to go back to school shopping, not Back to the Future. And we would go to like Bradley's or Woolworth's, and we'd grab stuff. We didn't even need some of that stuff. Like most of that stuff we didn't need. We'd grab pens and notebooks and those organizers and bags and things to put your pencils inside. 90% of that stuff was unnecessary, but you bought it as if you were going for your PhD, and that never happened. So I enjoy this time of year, especially when you would go into a nice store for back to school shopping. Not even a nice one, just a store, and they had a cool air conditioner on and it would make you feel like it was fall time. Yeah, I like that. So earlier I was thinking about when I was a kid. I was like 9 years old and we were sleeping over somebody's house. So they divided us up because we were visiting, kind of vacationing, and they divided us up into different sections of the house. And I ended up sleeping in a back room that was kind of connected to the balcony. And they had a nice cozy bed. Fell asleep. The doors were open. And right behind me was a big mountain. And it was nice out. It was kind of cool, so you had a blanket and all that. So at one point I woke up. Probably was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I look, and it was just moonlight. Couldn't see anything really, but it was moonlight coming in, and what it looked like to me was a tarantula on the floor, walking like this. And 9 years old, I was like, there's a tarantula. I was thinking in my head, there's a tarantula in the room. And at some point, I kind of looked away, and when I looked back, it wasn't there anymore. Now, I can't figure out if I was asleep dreaming that I was in that room seeing a tarantula, or if it really happened. I have no idea. To this day, I have no idea if there was a tarantula in that room or if I imagined it. Because if you have a dream, and I'll give you another example, but if you have a dream that that you're in your room, in your bed, and it looks identical to the reality you live in, but you're dreaming, and then all of a sudden there's someone in your room, and then they close the door and they leave, and then you wake up, but you can't tell you woke up or you were asleep. It seemed like you were awake the whole time, but you were asleep dreaming of that. And then when you woke up, because it was the same environment, you couldn't tell the difference. Well, that's the thing. I don't know if I was dreaming of a tarantula in that room or if it was really a tarantula. So I remember I got up and I didn't want to be in that room anymore because I don't know where that tarantula went. Disappeared. And I remember it was a good size. It's just like I could see it moving across the floor. So I got up and I went out into the balcony and I just sat there. And I remember it was breezy. And then at some point I got sleepy again. And I went and I said, I don't care. And I went under the blankets and I fell asleep, and I got up the next day and everything was fine. I didn't get bitten, I didn't get stung, anything like that, but it was just a weird, situation. And I'll give you an example. When I was, a little bit older, my parents had gone on vacation, so I was home alone. And, when you're home alone, you have a ritual. So my ritual was I would go to the supermarket and I would buy the biggest watermelon they had. I'd come home, I'd put it in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then I'd go to the back room where the TV was, and I'd cut slices, cut them up into rectangles, and I would sit there eating this delicious watermelon. I'll out eat anybody when it comes to watermelon. I don't care who you are. I'm probably top 5 in the world when it comes to eating watermelon. So anyway, I would eat the watermelon, and I'd go to bed. Well, when you eat watermelon, every hour and a half or so, you got to get up. You got to use the bathroom because there's a lot of fluid. Got to get rid of it. Well, I ate the watermelon. I did that every single night. Every night I'd get a watermelon and eat the whole thing. And if you happen to be lucky and get the watermelon at the right moment, that's when it's the best. But anyway, so I go to bed, and now I know this was a dream, so I'm just gonna let you know ahead of time that this was a dream. So I'm in my room, I'm sleeping, and then all of a sudden it's around 2:30 in the morning, and we had an old guy who was a neighbor, right? So all of a sudden I'm sleeping, and all I hear is somebody pounding on the door, like really hard and aggressive. I can hear boom, 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 So first thing I thought of, it's my neighbor. Something's wrong, right? So I got up, and I'm expecting to see him all bent over and grabbing his stomach or something. Maybe a heart attack happening. And I'm preparing myself for the visual. What am I going to experience here? What's going to happen? So I go and I open up the door, and there's no one there. I dreamt the exact same situation that I was in. Only difference was that I added a knocking on the door. And then I woke up, and I didn't realize that I was dreaming the knocking on the door, the aggressive knocking. I was dreaming that. But because I was dreaming that I was in my room, it seemed like reality and the dream were one and the same. And I remember when I looked, I go, oh yeah, it's like, what am I going to see them all like bloodied up? Or, when I opened up the door, there was no one there. It was just a dream. That's happened a couple of times where, it'd be like I fell asleep here right now, and instead of the dream, if I were to dream, instead of the dream being, like I'm at the mall or something, and then I'm at the beach, and then I'm eating a burger, and then I'm eating frog legs, it would be of me sitting here under this umbrella. So then if I were to wake up, I wouldn't know that I was sleeping, because the dream and reality would match so perfectly that you wouldn't be able to tell that you were dreaming prior to this. And that's like the only 2 examples I can give where I had a dream and the dream matched perfectly the environment I was in where I was sleeping. So yeah, it happens. It happens. Getting dark. Tonight we're eating chicken and some very, very tasty sausages mixed in with cut onions, cut peppers, yellow, green, and red, colorful things in there, and mushrooms. So that's what we're having. And right now I could go for some Kool-Aid or Country Time lemonade, or even a nice big glass of water with ice, because I am a little bit thirsty, a little bit. Sometimes I go to Bob's Big Boy. Like, we used to do this all the time, but now we go every blue moon. But years ago we would go to Bob's Big Boy on Friday evenings, and we'd check out all the old cars. All the old timers would show up with their muscled up vehicles and these were guys that were in their prime in the 50s, almost in their prime. Maybe they were like 18, 19 in the 50s, and now they're all older guys. They're in their 80s, and they have the white hair and the sideburns, and they still have the cars they had back then. Some of these cars are like 1957 Chevys, and and then you get into the other cars where they're like 1967 GTO Pontiacs, and some guys have 70s cars, but they're old guys. And I go by there looking, and there was a lot of them for sale. Some of these guys go there to sell them. They trade them. Some guys, they say, hey, what do you got there? He goes, oh, I got a 1955 whatever, and what do you have? And then they make a deal and they swap, or they buy it or whatever. But yeah, I used to go there a lot, and we haven't done that in a while. I mean, I've been to Bob's Big Boy, but not on a Friday. On that, I think, you know, might have been a Friday, but we went to eat. I think it was a Friday. So I'm having an issue with I have an arcade game, and one of the bulbs, the old kind of arcade games from the 70s, I mean 70s, the 80s, sorry. One of the bulbs burnt inside, so I'm not getting the image on the screen. And there's a few places I've called, and they all act like they're interested. Like, yeah, we're gonna, you know, send someone out. And they put, you know, put me on the pay no mind list. So I'm looking for somebody to help me out with the arcade games. Yeah, when I was a kid, the arcade was a good portion of my fun time. I didn't go there, you know, like kids today. They play, you know, games all day on their apps. I mean, on their computers. But you know, I'd go once a week, spend a few hours, couple hours in an arcade. And I was a big fan of Defender. Defender, Time Pilot 84, that Kung Fu Champ game, Point, Half Point, that one. Big fan of that. Like to play Tempest, pinball machines. The one I liked a lot was made by, well, all my favorite ones were made by Williams. Matter of fact, Williams made a lot of my favorite arcade games, period. I mean, they made Defender, they made Stargate, they made all the cool pinball machines. And the one I'm thinking of, can't think of the name right now, but it was Round and Round She Goes, Way She Stops, you know, the Funhouse. Really good pinball machine, I love that one. And another game I used to play a lot, Scrambler. Little ship going through the mountain range, and it could drop bombs. If I didn't get this at all, you had to drop bombs, and if you hit the fuel tanks below, you would gain energy. How does that work? I mean, it would be like going to the gas station, shooting it up, blowing it up, and then your tank of gas is like your gas tank is full from that. How is that possible? But anyway, that's the way you would get fuel into your spaceship. You would drop missiles onto these gas tanks below, and then your fuel would fill up. So yeah, that was a cool game. I would play that. Pac-Man was, you know, good. I was better at Miss Pac-Man than Pac-Man. And I got this book one time, showed you all these different patterns for Pac-Man, and I memorized a few screens, so I was able to get quite up there. But there was these two brothers. There were these two brothers, and they had this really good pattern memorized, and they could go up to like 250, 300,000 points. And I used to watch them play, but never quite memorized after like the fifth board. You're like, okay, I know what they're doing here, and then all of a sudden it would switch around. But I was pretty good at that. I was good at Galaxy and Galaga, two other games I loved. What else we had? And then of course Atari. I had Atari. I was good at Space Invaders. I used to love playing Adventure. What else did I have? Asteroids. I know the effects were cheesy, but from our point of view back then, they were good enough. You know, Asteroids was like, you know, it was like the same pattern, and you would just sit there, you know. And Missile Command was another one I would play a lot. And then I destroyed the game. So one day I was playing Missile Command, and I had blown away my high score by a long shot, and I still had a ton of, you know, the little city things below, and I was doing well. And then my leg, from the excitement, my foot hit the console, whatever that Atari thing is, and it fell over, and it made my screen disappear. And I smashed that thing, you know, it pissed me off, so I smashed it. Gave it a couple of throws, because it ruined my high score, I know. And it never worked again after that, the correct way, so that was the end of that. But I used to play that a lot. Time Pilot, Superman, I had that one. Wasn't really big on that one. I was more into Adventure. Had 1, 2, and 3. Like those dragons, the most simplest looking dragons you'll ever find anywhere, and the sword was nothing more than an arrow, and you were a square going through the maze. But I'll tell you what I used to do. I would get home from school, and I had this chair that would spin around. I would open up my window, get the fall air to come in, and I would go in the kitchen and I would grab a Flaky Puff. Vachon, I don't know who made him, but anyway, Flaky Puff. And my father in those days, he would get either strawberry or chocolate. And so I would sit and I would play Adventure on my Atari, and I would eat my Flaky Puff. Big fan of that combination. You know, and then other things came out. In television, you know, came out. And now, of course, you can actually go to Best Buy and you can buy the actual arcade games, only a little bit smaller, that we used to play in the 80s. You know, it's like $400 or $500. You know, you save your money, you know, no quarters or anything like that. Although there is a way to cheat. I've never done this, but I know that if you take a quarter, drill a little hole on the top, and then tie a fishing line through the hole, and have the fishing line be, you know, a couple of feet long, you can put that quarter in there. And I don't know if there's a cutoff thing so you can't pull it back out. Maybe there is, but you would think you could drill a hole in the quarter, put a fishing line on it, and then put it into the slot and then pull it back out. Now I have to look at the mechanism. I have a machine so I can look at it inside, but I wonder if the quarter, when it falls in, does the slot go over the opening so you can't pull it back out? I don't know. I do remember one time though, we were getting ready to go somewhere for the weekend, and I had to play Defender. So I ran all the way to the arcade while they were packing up the station wagon, and I went in there to play one game, just one game, and there was no one in there. So I was like, oh good, there's no one in line, I can play, I'm early, you know. I got up there just as the guy was opening up, but there was the coin guy was there, and he was opening up the machines and removing all the coins. So I go, a perfect opportunity, I'm gonna have a conversation with this guy. So I said to him, hey, I'm interested in buying one of these Defender machines. How much would it cost me? Now I'm a little kid, but you know, he says to me, you can buy one for $2,200. And back then, $2,200 was big money. You know, not like now. Now $2,200 is, you know, it's a lot of money, but it's not like it was back then. So I played my game and I came back to the house, and I was a little bit bummed out. I was like, where am I going to find $2,500? And that never happened, but I wish I had. That would have been a cool thing to have Defender in my room. Would have saved me the hassle of traveling downtown, you know, wasting money. I would have had it in my room. It would have been free. I should have pitched it that way to my father. Would have been like, you know what, you'll save me the big hassle of taking the train downtown. You'll save me the hassle of spending the money when I'm down there. You know, a few bucks here, a few bucks there, adds up. And at the end, we still have the machine. And later on, if I sell it, I would say to him, there may be something called eBay coming in the future. I'll put it on eBay, I'll sell it when I get older, but I wouldn't have sold it, because now I actually have Defender in my house. You know, so I still have it. I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, that game captured me. So the way I discovered it was the last day of summer. We were vacationing, and I was at the arcade, and they had just brought in this brand new machine, which I'd never seen before, and it was all the way at the end of the arcade, you know, machines, all the way at the end. And as I'm getting ready to leave, because I spent all my money, you know, how much money did I have? Like $3 or $4 maybe. I spent it all, and the guy that worked there, the change guy, he was playing this game, and it caught my eye, and I was like, oh, this game is fascinating. So I couldn't leave. I was just watching and watching, and when I went home, I was like, I got to get back to the arcade and play that game. So the next day, I asked my father for $1, and I gave it to me. I went down to the arcade, and I played it for the first time, and I was hooked. It was like heroin. You know, it was crazy. It just, you know, very addictive, that game, for me. And, you know, I mean, I played it for a few years, And then, you know, I moved on. I play it once in a while now, though, but not like back then. Now I play it once every, I don't know, 5 months. Long time will go by and I'll play it, but sometimes I won't even play it for an entire year. But back then I had to play it. I loved it, you know. And you know, the excuse was good hand-eye coordination. I remember watching Sugar Ray Leonard when he was training to fight Hagler, and he was playing Pac-Man. They had a video of him playing Pac-Man, and he was explaining that it was good hand-eye coordination. And I said, yeah, that's why I do it. Hand-eye coordination. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.